Hello, this is Professor James Strickler, and this is A Course in American Government. This lesson is from Unit 10 about media and politics, and it's Lesson 1 about the mass media. In this lesson, you'll learn about the mass media, about recorded media, and about live media. Let's begin with the question of what is mass media? To understand that, we first need to understand what media is. Media is really any mechanism that's used to convey information to somebody else, either in the present or in the future. An example of media would be simply leaving a note for someone, or perhaps doing a piece of art. In either case, you're trying to convey something to somebody else. That's what media is. Mass media is media, but it's intended for a broad audience. You want to reach lots of people, distributed perhaps many places, rather than just leaving a note for your roommate in the refrigerator. Examples of mass media are newspapers or websites. There are several types of mass media. Newspapers are the oldest. There was a time when printing was the only way to accomplish sending ideas to large groups of people in spread out areas. Magazines, another form of printing, books, another form. Eventually films came along. Then electronic media was developed, radio, television, websites, and now we have social media. Now, these 8 types of mass media here listed on this slide, though, can be divided up into 2 categories. On the one side, we have what we can call recorded media. These are things that are not taking place in the moment that they happened. Even films, for example, are showing us something that happened before. On the other side, we have types of media that we can categorize as live media. Now, they're not always used to present things live, but they have the capacity to do so. Unlike a book, which cannot be telling you about what's happening right now, radio can do that, television can do that, websites can do that, and social media can do that. They can all present what is happening at this moment, while the types of media in the left-hand column are not capable of doing that. So when we have those 4 types of media categorized as recorded media, what we're really saying is that these are things that deliver information to an audience after it's already happened, perhaps days, weeks, or even years later. Now, these types of media that we call recorded media have some definite strengths. One is that they can be widely distributed, perhaps in an easier or even less expensive way than the live media. There are places in this world that are still not very technologically sophisticated. They may not have the facilities, they may not have the technology to interact with us through some of the more sophisticated electronic ways of distributing information of our modern world. But all of them are capable of receiving books, for example. So recorded media, which is oftentimes more simple than live media, has the potential to be distributed much more widely. Recorded media also has the potential to provide greater depth and detail than live media. When you are preparing something that doesn't have to be given to your audience instantaneously, you'll have time to think about what you're going to say, to go into greater detail, to research, to study, to analyze, to interpret, and include that in your presentation. Those are things that are very hard to do in the split moment of live media. A last strength of recorded media is its permanence, or at least potential for permanence. Once something has been recorded, it can be kept around to be reviewed later, perhaps even by later generations. But recorded media has certain weaknesses also. The first of those is that it's delayed in its presentation. rather than having the capacity to deliver information to people as the event is happening. Instead, it has to show up later. And later is sometimes too late. Or at the very least, later is not when people would like to most have the information. It is also, in a sense, filtered. Now, what I simply mean by that is it can't convey to the person receiving the information through these recorded means everything that was happening at the moment that the actual event took place. So, for example, let's say the thing that's being recorded and passed on to other people, say through print media of a newspaper, is a politician's speech. While the person writing the story for the newspaper can tell us a lot about the politician's speech, they probably aren't going to be able to convey very well, say, the politician's tone of voice, or the look on the politician's face, or the manner in which the politician carried his body, things like that. Those are additional things that can provide information to people, which recorded media simply isn't good at conveying to us, usually. Now, there is the potential that film can do these things, but even with film, you have some filmmaker making choices about what to include or not to include, usually as part of some broader project. And so, again, you still aren't in the moment watching the politician give the speech, experiencing everything about what the politician is doing. So now, let's skip over to the other side of this slide, away from the category of recorded media to the category of live media. Live media is where the events are being presented as they happen. This is something that radio, television, internet sites, and social media have the capacity to do. Now, again, as I said before, they aren't always used that way. Sometimes they're used in the same way that recorded media is, to talk about things that have happened previously. But at least they have the potential to present things as they happen, and there are strengths to this. Let's talk about two of those strengths. The first of those is simply the immediacy of it, that people learn of things as the things are happening. This gives them an opportunity to react to them more quickly. It also just simply satisfies their need, their curiosity about what's happening in the world. People like to know about things as they happen rather than later. It's also potentially less filtered. Let me go back to my example of a politician giving a speech. Again, if you read about it in the newspaper, there's certain things about it you're not going to experience. On the other hand, if you participate in it as a live event, where you see the politician, you hear the politician's words, you can feel the politician's emotions, then that conveys more information to you. And this is the kind of thing that you can experience through live electronic media. But live media also has certain weaknesses. One of those is it's oftentimes shallow. The presentations being made to us in live media are ones where the presenters haven't had the opportunity to digest what is going on. They haven't been able to review it, to sit down and research it and analyze it, etc., to then try to give us more insight into it. We simply get the raw information, and we may not even know what to do with it. So as a consequence, our understanding of what's going on may oftentimes be shallow. Live media is also often transitory. Now, what I simply mean by that is it's there, you experience it, then it's gone. And it's not like a book that you can pull off a shelf to refer to again. You may remember that this event happened. You may even recall seeing it on television. But good luck tracking it down to see it again. Now, there are times that it's possible. Maybe that event has been recorded and it's transitioned over to the other side as a recorded event that you can look at later. But oftentimes not. Unless you have a photographic memory, you can see exactly what happened again and again in your own mind, you may just be stuck, that your fallible memory is all you have of it. Okay, let's review what we learned in this lesson. First of all, what makes mass media different from media? Is it its permanence? Is it its personal importance? Is it the audience it's intended for? or is it the technology that's used to present it? Mass media is different from media because of its intended audience. Media is simply some mechanism to convey ideas from person to person. Mass media is about conveying those ideas to large crowds, perhaps in many different places. What is the strength of recorded media? Is it its immediacy? Is it the way that it's filtered? Is it its depth and detail? Or is it the fact that it is delayed? The strength of recorded media is its depth and detail. The fact that because it's delayed, the people who are presenting it to us have an opportunity to try to provide a richness to it to help us understand it better. What is a weakness of live media? Is it its impermanence, its immediacy, the fact that there's less filtering going on in it, or that it's delayed? A weakness of live media is its impermanence, that you're there in the moment, you experience it, and then it's gone, perhaps never to be reclaimed. That completes this lesson. The next lesson will also be from Unit 10. It'll be Lesson 2 about the news media.